Aloha, I'm Lyla Berg, and we're here at Waikalua Loko Iʻa, the fish pond in Kaneohe, ready to meet the people who inform, inspire, and impact our daily lives. Thank you for joining us on Island Focus. So this looks like a very wide wall here.
Yes.
Is this different than where we were walking before?
Well, the original wall was just one wall basically on the Makai side. And what we've decided to do with the reconstruction of the wall in response to the king tide events that's been occurring over the last couple of years is to actually do both a Mauka and a Makai wall and then fill it with coral as it was originally designed. And we're continuing to use a traditional dry stack method and using traditional materials as much as we could because it's very difficult to find appropriate types of rock. You know, years ago, the ku stone, every local iʻa that we know of has a ku and a hina stone. These are stones that were part of the local iʻa where you would give the first harvest. This ku stone was not revealed to us until the 12th year that we were restoring the pond. And it was very close, within 20 feet of here. And then 2 years later, we found the hina stone on the west side. So the ku is always on the east, hina always on the west. And so we feel as we're reconstructing the wall that all the pieces are beginning to fall back into place as originally intended.
Here with us today at Waikalua Loko Iʻa is Rosalyn Concepcion, who is the fish pond manager. Thank you for tuning in. So nice to see you, and please share with us this amazing kuleana that you have here at the fish pond.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say thank you for having me here. What a great opportunity to share with the community and what we're doing here at the fish pond. So this fish pond is about 400 years old, and the kuleana that comes with this place is very heavy. You know, we're trying to restore this fish pond to a place where it was prior to Western contact. And we're hopeful that we can get to that point, but there's a lot of challenges that face us to get there.
Maybe share with us what a fish pond is, what was it before Western contact, and of course we know why it's important, having spoken with her, but from your perspective as the manager.
So basically within our own ahupua'a in Kaneohe, fish ponds were developed as a result of famines. So there wasn't always a time prior to Western contact where we could always rely on food. And so as a result of that, and it's not just specific to this ahupua'a, but as a result of that, throughout the moku, all of the ali'is and the konahikis came together and needed to find a way to be more sustainable so that they can provide food for their community on a daily basis. As a result of that, we have these fish ponds that were developed, and there's about 5 different types of fish ponds.
On every island, of course, right?
Correct.
Because it was to sustain the communities and people.
Correct.
How was that done at the time?
Each ahupua'a had their own responsibilities that traveled from the top of the mountain range all the way down to the ocean. And it also extended out to the furthest reefs. And basically, what people did was they were responsible for their own area. So if we grew up next to the vai or a kai, they would be responsible to manage the fish ponds or whatever type of agriculture that was growing there.
And up Mauka would have their responsibility.
Correct,
So
correct.
they couldn't pollute the water there because the water would come down to the fish ponds of the ocean.
Correct.
So that's what you're trying to restore here.
Yes.
What is it that's needed?
We need more community members to be aware of how they play a role in preserving the aina, be cognizant of what they're throwing into their rivers or in their backyards. We actually partner up with Ho'omaluhia with Mark Stride on occasion, but it would be great to have that relationship or that pilina much tighter so that we can say, hey, something's going on down here at the ocean. What's going on up in the mountain? And you know, make those connections and then act accordingly.
Well, and you're also talking about communication and relationships and continuity,
Correct.
so that we recognize not just sustainability, but the interrelatedness of everything. So is it the dream and the goal of this fish pond to raise fish again?
Absolutely. I just came from a weekend retreat with Limu practitioners, and we went to Haena in Kauai. And there's a community-based sustainable fishing village out there that extends from the mountain to the ocean. And to be able to see our local kama'ainas managing those resources from that extent is powerful. And if that could translate here within our own ahupua'a here, or even the entire island, I mean, it's amazing how much resources we could have available for our community.
So what's your parting message for the audience at this time?
Just know that everybody has a kuleana, whether you're Hawaiian or you're Hawaiian at heart. That wherever you are, please, just malama and take care of where you're at, and know that you will contribute to the betterment of the island and then globally as well.
And that we're all interconnected.
Correct, absolutely, we are.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time and best wishes for the continuation of this. We'll look forward to eating the fish someday, right?
Yes. Well, thank you for having me.
Just had an opportunity to meet Rosalyn Concepcion, who is the pond manager here at Waikalua Loko Iʻa. Aloha. I'm here at the fish pond in Kaneohe with Kevin Henry, who is the communications manager with the Red Cross of Hawaii. What a responsibility you have. We hear about the Red Cross nationally and how they step in the most dire situations. In Hawaii, it's a little misleading sometimes because our weather is so beautiful, but there's a lot of work here for you.
Yes, there is. And I'm glad you mentioned about the national scope of the Red Cross, because we just recently, for Hurricane Dorian, had 17 of our volunteers from Hawaii go to be part of the cleanup and assisting people who were victimized or affected by that hurricane. So the arms of the Red Cross are very, very long and expansive.
And connecting with other parts of the world sometimes.
Well, right. And right here in Hawaii, the Red Cross is also a place where community can connect as well, because we have volunteers. In fact, 95% of our workforce at the Red Cross is composed of volunteers. So without the volunteers, there'd basically be no gas in the tank, so to speak.
Speaking about volunteers and community, when the Red Cross steps in emergencies, you're very present. In non-emergencies, sometimes we disregard the possibility. What might you say in terms of preparedness from that angle?
Well, the thing about being prepared is that it's really more of a lifestyle, and it's more of a mindset, because I think it's very easy to get lulled into this sense of complacency, especially in a place like Hawaii, where the weather, you got the warm breezes, and it's not like living in the Midwest or the East Coast or even Florida, where you're expecting disasters to happen on a regular basis.
Extreme weather.
Exactly. So we can just kind of get lulled into, like I said, this sense of complacency. So going out and getting an emergency kit is so important. It doesn't take long to do. There's certain things that you want to have on hand, water, you want to have a plastic wrap for your documents, and you want to put your documents on a thumb drive and things like that, because when disaster is approaching, a lot of times you don't get much of a warning. And that's when everybody freaks out and they run down to the store, and then you always see that newscast photo or video of empty, bare shelves,
right?
Because everybody at the last minute went and did it, when they could have actually been prepared months in advance.
What suggestion would you have, or how might you frame this so that we're operating from how to take care of ourselves now already, as opposed to the fear that gets conveyed by the news when something actually happens?
Right. Well, I think that if you can think about the fact that if you invest an hour or two in going to the store and getting the things that you need, you can alleviate a lot of stress, a lot of worry about, how are we going to have water? Where are we going to stay? The other thing is that because of our isolation, being out here in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, it's really important to be prepared because it's not like you can get in your car and drive to the next state, nor can you have people come in or companies come in with goods in trucks, which is what happens very often on the mainland. So having a 14-day supply is so important. And also having a sense of community and getting to know your neighbors, getting to know what are some of the challenges they might have. Because if there's a disaster, you're worried about your own family, but suppose somebody across the street is elderly or disabled or something like that, they're really going to be in a bad place if they're not able to get that support that you as a community member could offer.
And that's a really good point about getting to know our communities, because so many of the neighborhoods are not really communities. They are regions or areas. A thought on how we might develop that?
Well, one thing I was thinking is like having a get prepared party. I mean, you hear about block parties, you hear about get-togethers, you even hear about meetups.
Right.
Why not get to know your neighbors and all go down to the local Walmart or something and get supplies together? And it's something that is a win-win because you're getting prepared, you're getting your neighbor prepared and your community prepared, but you're also getting to know your neighbors as well. So you're building maybe a stronger community. And if you feel like you live in a strong, cohesive community, I think that adds to the security that you have just on an individual basis.
Most definitely. Well, thank you for your thoughts, and I'm going to see how we can frame that as a pre-disaster meetup.
Well, they have like 200 meetups on Oahu, so why not have a pre-disaster meetup?
I love it.
And I'll go down to the store and get some supplies before you have to freak out and go.
Thank you for alleviating the anxiety that we might have and for taking the time to be with us.
Try.
Thank you. I've just had a conversation with Kevin Henry, who's the communications manager with the Red Cross of Hawaii. Appreciate you being with us. Today on Island Focus, you will enjoy meeting Matt Kleba, who is the president and CEO of the Maramed Foundation. Glad you could join us. Maramed, that name is so familiar. I think perhaps it's changed over the last 25 years, but perhaps you can share with us your history and your role there.
In 1984, the organization was founded to provide a volunteer medical mission down in the Marshall Islands. And a ship was built to carry volunteer nurses and doctors from Hawaii down to that region. As the mission changed into a more youth focus, the ship came home, and for the next close to 30 years, the focus was on challenged youth and youth in and out of incarceration or mental health, which was a part of our history until very recently. In the meantime, we were doing maritime training because our vessel is the only licensed sailing school vessel in the state. We do a number of charters with other schools and kids, and it's always been our change medium, our transformative experiences being on the ship. And so we began training future mariners on the vessel for jobs in the maritime trade along our waterfront.
It's quite an evolution. And I know from our previous conversation with you as a high school teacher, the educational component was always very critical.
Always the core, and experiential education in particular, giving people hands-on learning. So the ship and the ocean have always been the center of our educational approach. There's lots of technical stuff, and it's now, maritime training is seen as a STEM training.
Classes are actually on the ship.
Classes are held on the ship. So it's basically half classroom time and half ship time, small boats, small boat handling, small sailboats, big ship handling, and they complete the course with a 7-day inter-island voyage where they run the vessel throughout the islands.
Were you a water person growing up?
Always. I've been in the water my whole life. I like to say I've lived on one of these 3 bays my whole life, Kaneohe, Waimanalo, or Kailua. So, no, those are my classrooms and my training ground, but also a good place to run away and find yourself
right?
again. Right, exactly. And it's always been that. And voyaging offers that to lots of folks. And to be able to tie it into career development and finding new career pathways for these young people, it's really rewarding.
So maybe explain a little bit more about this new career path and what's entailed and how can someone apply even?
A good friend and one of our board members, Captain Kaipopo Makai, ran Waianae Maritime Academy for years with his wife, Donna. And we were on a voyage together with some other captains, Leighton Seu, port engineer for Matson, and some others. And the conversation was, we're losing all of our Hawaiians on the waterfront. These high-paying jobs on tugs and big ships and others are going to folks from out of state who can get the certifications easier and things like that. And so what we wanted to do is create a pathway where we can get through all the alphabet soup, all the acronyms to help people get all these certifications so that they can retain these high-paying jobs.
So high-paying jobs on the waterfront means on boats.
On boats or onshore, freight forwarding. We work with the maintenance yards, and the program is very hands-on. So we visit all of these places. We do a tugboat ride. We visit big ships. We visit the cruise ship. We visit the maintenance yards and construction sites like Pearl Harbor Shipyard to give them an idea that there's all kinds of careers, and most of our waterfront careers pay well.
Sounds kind of exciting, you know, to be learning in a place that you really enjoy.
I've been scrutinized for having a career of all my hobbies. So, I mean, it's not a bad, if you love the ocean and you like being on the ocean, I mean, riding boats is a fun way to make a living. They pay well, and think of it, the way that we really like to think about it is part of our sustainability. 97% of everything we have in our state arrives by boat. Why not have our folks be the ones driving those boats and managing the cranes and moving the freight? So it's really about, you know, taking care of ourselves with our own folks.
Well, thank you very much for this short conversation. And if I had another career to do you take girls too?
Absolutely. Women, fastest rising population in the maritime industry.
Super. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, mahalo.
Thank you for joining me and conversing with Matt Klebaugh, who is the president and CEO of the Maramed Foundation. Aloha. So what's going on in this tank?
So about 3 years ago, when we had a mini extinction event in our pond and in the bay with the Gracilaria salicornia, we call it the gorilla ogo, it just kind of disappeared because the temperature of the ocean went up.
And you had introduced that.
No, that was introduced already in the
Okay.
pond, and we were taking up maybe 100 tons a year out of the pond and using it for the taro farmers for nitrogen. So when that kind of disappeared, there was an opportunity for us to try to figure out how to grow the native limu, which is the preferred diet for the herbivores in the pond, the mullet and the ava. And so for the last 3 years, we've been trying to figure out ways of how to grow the limu manawea at its highest capacity. We try them in here, we try them in the pond in those pens. We have other pens in the back of the pond. So
this is limu manawea.
This is the limu manawea. This is the one that is in
That
part
we
of
like
your
to eat.
nice ogo. And it grows really
Look at
well over
this.
here.
So this is for the fish?
Yes, they'll eat the little diatoms that are attached to the limu.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yeah. And then we have mullet in here. The poop of the mullet helps to
Fertilize
bring and
and
nutrify, you know, the environment for the limu as well.
so the idea is to raise the limu, grow the limu, put it in the pond so
Right.
that it can be the
food source, the principal
fish.
food source for the fish, and then hopefully I'll plant it into the bay and it can be a food source out there.
Fabulous. I'm with Gregg Chikas, who is the Executive Director for the Coalition for Drug-Free Hawaii. Please share with us, how is the organization now meeting the needs of Hawaii? I know where it was 10, 15 years ago.
We do much of what we did 10, 15 years ago. We've built upon that. Our mission is to prevent and reduce drug abuse in Hawaii through education, action, and awareness. We work directly with kids, doing prevention programs, helping them focus on the things they want out of life, prevent them to get derailed by drugs and other, temptations and distractions of life.
It's the ongoing discussion, right?
It is.
And the task, especially with the way drugs are now and so available.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're saying you work directly with young people, you can't do it alone.
There's a number of different ways we do this. Some is just through presentations, some with after-school programming. We work in communities. We have some community coalitions, so we work best when we work with others. And so,
hence the name Coalition.
Yeah. And so we have a coalition in Ewa Beach and one in Kapolei, and you're bringing in sectors of the community where it's business, it's healthcare, it's schools, churches, all together to have just a common goal of reducing in preventing underage drinking. And when we get together and get all on the same page with strategies, that's the kind of thing that's going to make a lasting difference.
So whether it's drinking or hard drugs or pills or smoking, young people are going to experiment, and to the frustration of parents, and sometimes to the discomfort of parents not really knowing what to say or how to say it. What might you say to a parent of middle school or even high school?
A couple things. I'd tell them to, just educate themselves. And one great way to do that is we have a prevention resource center. So we are the state's resource center. So you don't have to be on Oahu. People can go online and they can view materials, they can order materials. We will ship for free to neighbor islands, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a youth group leader, and we'll send that information. But they need to know kind of what's going on. And then they need to have conversations with their kids, how uncomfortable they might be. Just let them know kind of what, the family rules and expectations are, and help them, if you want to achieve this in life, son, these are the kind of things that you'll probably need to do, and these are the kind of things you probably should be avoiding. And again, those conversations are hard, but any hard, awkward conversation beats no conversation at all with no expectations.
Well, and so say it's still difficult, even though you suggest it's necessary. What I found when I was a former principal is that we gave parents some ideas on how to engage in the relationship and also keep their young person busy. We know sports, of course, athletics in any kind of way, music, drama. What other kind of suggestions do you have for parents and how to move their young person in the direction, even if they don't know what career they might want as a 13-year-old?
Yeah. That is that's a hard one, and I know it's every parent. I, as a parent, struggle with that too. Fortunately, my kids, have kind of chosen that they like athletics, and they really pursue that. It not only keeps them out of trouble, keeps them really busy, and keeps them focused on some goals. And whether a child's goal is sports, athletics, academics, arts, whatever. I think there's a lot of opportunities in Hawaii, even if it's, free stuff like surfing, bodyboarding, whatever. Have kids engaged in those things. And the more they are engaged with people who are looking also for similar healthy, clean lifestyles, the more likely they're going to lead a healthy, clean lifestyle.
And to have fun.
Absolutely.
Right?
You got to have fun, otherwise it's not going to work.
I see so many young people with such serious and droll faces, and I'm sure we're not allowing our children to be children.
Yeah. You have to facilitate the conversation, but you can't really lead it. You should be doing this, you should be doing that. Let's take some of this kind of lessons or that kind of activities.
Or even going swimming with your kids, right? And playing games once in a while. So what would help the coalition to be more successful?
I think, if people get involved in their community, so we have these community coalitions, like I mentioned, in Ewa Beach and Kapolei, but they need to be involved in the community. Involve yourself in the school, in the kids' sports. If you involve yourself, that just helps build up the community's resiliency, which these are protective factors, and it helps reduce risk factors, which are in the community.
Yeah, and I would also like to add to this is to have fun with your children.
Absolutely.
They may not want to be with us at a certain age, but what I really enjoyed, and I think you do too, is watching my son, your children, when they're in activities and not having to teach them ourselves. So your children are in sports. What is their awareness based on your professional field?
Well, because I'm in the field, their awareness is pretty high. And they've seen other kids, unfortunately, maybe make poor decisions. And sometimes it's a one strike and you're out situation off of a team or something like that. So they realize the importance of making, wise decisions.
Well, bless our young ones for that
Yes.
voice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me in my conversation with Gregg Chikas, who is the Executive Director for the Coalition for a Drug-Free Hawaii. Mahalo. Mahalo to the folks at Waikalua Loko Iʻa, the fish pond here in Kaneohe, for hosting us today, and to you for tuning in to Island Focus. I'm Lyla Berg. Aloha and malama pono. Take care of each other. See you soon.